Welcome to Incorporating SuperPowers. I am your host, Justin Recla. And today I'm super excited to introduce you to my guest. Scott Carson is somebody that's been in the business world for a long time. He's doing some great things out there. We met at Secret Knock, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago now, maybe even longer than that.
I think it's actually might be 7 years now. I actually thinking about it. Yeah,
I think it was. I think it was shortly. I'd be like, or almost right after we left government, right when we were first stepping into business. Greg put us on his stage first time, and I think that's where you and I met. And I wanted to talk to Scott and I haven't connected in a long time. But I went back and just looked at some of the stuff, and I was like, boom, I got it. I know exactly what we're talking about today. And this seems to be a kind of a theme today, especially with us guys, is tapping into some of these things that most people would think would be very feminine, but they're not. They're extremely masculine, and we're bringing it to the forefront. So one of the things I want to talk to Scott today about is how emotion and intuition affect your success. So Scott, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Man, first and foremost, I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me. You're doing amazing things over there. Everybody listening, go out, subscribe, give a review right now. While you're thinking about it, hit it. But I'm honored to be here and just jacked up as always, man. You're doing some great stuff. And we've gone too long without visiting, man. We got to do it much more often on a regular basis, don't we, Justin?
Yeah, we really do. I mean, it's all about the connection. You've been off in your world. I've been off in my. Ironically, though, the world seemed to be getting smaller and smaller and closer together. So I'm glad that you've been able to join us here on the show, and I think this will just open up even more conversations as we unfold. So let's just dive down the rabbit hole here. We were talking a little bit briefly before the show about how emotion and intuition have had an impact on your own success. What does that mean, and how have you used emotion and intuition in your own journey?
Well, I will tell you this: the two are kind of separate, but obviously connected. I'm a big believer that you got to trust your gut, and that's your intuition talking to you. Some guts are a little bit bigger than others. I like to joke that mine was sponsored by Crown Royal and Ribeye Steaks for a couple of years. But I will tell you this: we all have a sixth sense still, whether it's still the animalistic behavior in it. If you just does something that doesn't feel right, trust your gut. Anytime I've ever gone against my gut and my intuition, it's done me wrong. Whether it was stepping outside of my normal, I like to say, traffic lanes of highway with my business, it did me wrong. Anytime I was able to listen to my gut and stick to it, it always did me well. But it's also, life is such full of emotions, and it's not nearly black and white as much as we'd like it to be. There's a lot of gray, and the emotions, I think, in our lives live in that gray area. I like to joke the 50 shades of gray. We have 50 shades of emotions from time to time that affect how we act. And, one of the things in our business, we deal with a lot of emotions as far as especially dealing with borrowers and foreclosures and people making their mortgage payments or not in my little niche of real estate investing. But then we also have emotions of getting deals closed. It gets stressful. We're trying to close on real estate and things like that. So a lot of emotions, and the more you can kind of control them, great, the better off you're going to be. And the more you can make educated decisions in your business versus emotional decisions, you'll be a lot better off. I see, and I know that you do as well, Justin, see a lot of people that can't control their emotions. They go off half-cocked or, they get a little crazy there. They're shooting from an emotional place. I have noise machines here, but anyway.
He's his own sound effects studio, fellas. He's his own sound effects studio. This is awesome. No editing required here.
Exactly. But whenever you make an emotional decision, it often ends up hurting you. You have to sit back, take the heart out of the decision, and keep the brain into it. Now, it's good to be, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you can't be emotional and passionate about some things, but you've got to make your decisions based on numbers, based on experience, and go from there. And I'm not saying that you can't be emotional and getting up to that point, but the final yes or no, whether to proceed, you've got to definitely take that emotions out of it. Oftentimes, you're going to be coming from a background or a place that really is going to steer you wrong in whatever you're working on, or whatever that decision has to be.
I absolutely love that, because I think especially in your industry, right, there's the emotional piece of buying, especially in real estate, buying notes. There's a lot of emotional energy there, right? Because it's like you buy this note and most people that are coming into the market and what you're in your industry, all they see is the backside of it. Of like, whoo, if I get this, on the backside of it, I made a $60,000, $50,000 profit, and there's a lot of emotion to that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just call out the elephant in the room. This is something that I like to do on the show here. What is that elephant in the room in your industry that people know is out there that doesn't feel good to them? What is that?
Well, there's two things. I call it OTSC syndrome in the real estate. And what OTSC stands for, oh, that's so cute. People are looking at a house online. Oh my gosh, it's like the whole HGTV. Oh, I'm going to fall in love with it. And I'm like, take the emotion out of it, shove it to the side. Let's look at the numbers. Do the numbers make sense? If the numbers make sense, then we'll take that next step of paint colors and stuff like that and curb appeal and stuff like that. But if the numbers don't make sense, hey, cut that thing loose and move on to the next one. And so that's kind of what it looks like with us on a lot of the front end side, but emotional side too. Especially when we're dealing with distressed debt and borrowers who are struggling to make their payments. It's an emotional struggle in some cases every day as we or our vendors are reaching out to these homeowners where we've bought the debt and become the bank, really trying to negotiate with the homeowners like, listen, hey, Mrs. Smith, I know you've been out of work for 2 years or you're back to work. Let's first and foremost try to take a deep breath. I'm not Wells Fargo. I'm not Bank of America. I'm not your previous bank. You've got a fresh start with me. What can you afford? Are you working again? I know you haven't paid in 2 years and the bank wanted all 24 or 36 months of that. Let's just take it easy. What can you pay today? And let's get you on the road to recovery. And you have to kind of sometimes just let people vent a little bit, let them get that emotional frustration out of the way because it bottles up sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And once that's done, then you come to like, okay, you're an adult. I'm an adult. Let's actually have an adult conversation. Let's take the emotions. If you can't I cuss anyway like it is. I drop a few F-bombs in here, but when I'm talking to a bar, I can't do that. I'm talking to a client, I can't do that. I've got to sit there and listen. And I think one of the most powerful things that you can do, and this was taught to me years ago in sales training, that if you're dealing with an emotional person, the worst thing you can do is just come back at them. If they're yelling at you, the worst thing you can do is come back at them and mirror them because that's all you're going to get.
Yeah, now it creates a fight. It creates a fight. Especially when you're talking about somebody's home, right? When you're talking about, hey, you're coming in and you're trying to assist them. I had a friend of mine. He's in the same industry as you. Had a situation, came in to help this woman out. She was $15,000 behind her mortgage. He came in, was able to assume the debt, and he was going to help revamp the home because it had some fire damage and whatnot. And he was going to keep her in there.
Nice.
She was fine with it. They came to great terms. The city, long story short, the city screwed things up and cost this woman her home. You know what my buddy did? He painted the entire house bright orange, hunter orange, because the city was saying that the house didn't exist, that it burnt up. Right? So at the end of the day, it's about helping people, right? Mm-hmm. About getting them, either whether it be helping the bad situation and converting it, or finding another home and building it up and providing some place for people to go. And that's what I love about the housing, what your industry. And when I first saw it, I didn't understand it, I didn't get it. But when I dove into it and saw it, I was like, oh no, this is really about helping people. Yeah, you're going to make a pretty penny on the back end, but at the end of the day, it's about connecting with people, which is why I love conversation of emotion and intuition, because in your industry, especially like you just identified, there could be a ton of emotion when dealing with clients.
It totally can be. And it's just not in real estate. You look at the whole world these days, especially the United States. It's such a hotbed of emotion, whether you like the guy in charge or you don't like the guy in charge. Politics these days, oh my gosh, that's emotionally heated. You got so much thing happening. And sometimes you just got to step away. Like, I think the best thing people could do is just turn off the TV, turn off the social media, and let's just have an intelligent conversation, because both sides are right, both sides are wrong. The right is somewhere in the middle. But what gets so crazy out there is when everybody gets emotionally heated, they focus on that emotion and that hot button versus actually deciding to try to solve the underlying issue, whether it is to build a wall, whether it's not to build a wall, whether it's to let people in or not let people in, or whatever your tax bracket is. let's figure on solving issues versus just getting in a fight and sitting here and making it 10 times worse because we get carried away with our emotions versus actually being focused on solid discussion and solid problem solving techniques.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can't separate out the two, you probably shouldn't be making decisions, especially when it comes to your own business, especially when it comes to the livelihood of other people. And in the housing industry, that is something huge that you have to take into consideration. All right, well, we got to go on break right quick. Talking to my friend Scott Carson about how emotion and intuition can affect your success. Scott, before we go on break, where can people go find you?
Easiest way is just to go to my website, weclosenotes.com. Everything's there that we've got. It's weclosenotes.com. That's where you're going to be the money.
Cha-ching. See, he's got sound effects. You're hired. You're now part of the team. Awesome. All right. Well, you are listening to Incorporating SuperPowers. We're talking to Scott Carson about how emotion and intuition can affect your success. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you an entrepreneur who speaks at conferences? Have you attended a conference and seen someone on stage you know is guilty of bad business practices? If you want to stand out from the crowd and give your prospective clients peace of mind, then make sure your business is in the Clear Directory. All of our members operate in transparency and are screened annually for frauds and scams. Stand out from the crowd and get in the Clear Directory. Visit clearbusinessdirectory.com/join to sign up today.
Welcome back to Incorporating SuperPowers. I'm your host, Justin Recla, and my guest today is Scott Carson. He's got his own sound effects studio in-house. We were talking earlier about how intuition comes from the gut. Some guts are bigger than others, in which case I'm going to use this as a means of weighing other people's intuition. So when I see a big belly, it's not a big belly, it means they got very good intuition.
We hope so.
I don't know if that's true, folks, but it sounds good anyways, in which case I'm rocking and rolling. So Scott, let's dive down the rabbit hole a little bit further, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have looked at getting into real estate, looking to buying notes. It can be tricky, it can be complicated, it can be, like you said, it can be emotional, right? So break it down. At the end of the day, what is the process that you help people utilize to mitigate their emotion, trust their intuition, and really step forward and doing some good in the world and making a profit at the same time?
Just trying to make sure it's numbers based. What's the true numbers of what's this deal look like? I'm a big believer initially too. I made some mistakes early on in my business here. I used to try to think I was going to foreclose and everything, buying a note, foreclose and everything, take everything back in the real estate because that was my background. That's my emotions were tied to my previous experiences. And I got into this. That was one of the biggest mistakes I made. When you're in the note business, as we are, our biggest bang for the buck is to actually work to help to keep the homeowner or the borrower in the property. And sometimes that's a very emotional thing of trying to keep. I would say we're making America great again, one mortgage at a time. Okay, instead of rehabbing the property, we're working to rehab the borrower, and that's the main focus of our thing. How can we help the homeowner? Is there a way for us to be flexible? Do we need to reduce the mortgage payment? Do we need to forgive some of the back payments? Do we need to reduce the interest rate? There's a lot of different moving parts, and trying to get the homeowners on the phone and talk with them and figure out, okay, hey, this is time to make a decision. You can't sit here and joke around with me. Otherwise, we are going to get very serious and turn it over to my attorneys. Let's work here. Let's get to brass tacks. Heck with you filling out all this thing. What can you afford today? What can you do? I'm flexible. Let's create a plan. Like I had a guy call me the other day on Thursday. He's like, I know I haven't paid in 12 months. I know you're starting legal on me. I'd really like to stay. And I'm like, okay, what happened? Tell me your country western song. Give it to me. Give me the emotions. All right.
Lost my truck, lost my car. Exactly.
Grandma got run over by a reindeer. My dog died, and my wife is sleeping with my brother. Oh, what's something, whatever. So the guy's like, really? I'm like, yeah, what's going on? Are you working? Yes, I'm working. Okay, what are you bringing in weekly or monthly or every 2 weeks? He told me that. And I said, well, what about this number? He goes, I can do that. I'm like, great. Can you bring a little bit extra? Yeah, I can bring a little bit extra. Great. Let's get this fixed and taken care of. Can you commit to doing this for 12 months straight? Yeah, I can do that. Great. If you can do that, I'll forgive you $5,000 in your debt. I'll forgive 12 months of payments. But you got to work with me, because we're all adults here. You're not a kid. You're not a 17-year-old girl. Nothing that 17-year-old girls, but we all know kids go through emotional roller coaster with the hormones, boys and girls both. I'm just digging a bigger hole for myself here right now. I can tell it right now. Yeah, exactly. But I think I'm trying to get at with everybody is it's okay to vent. It's okay to have those emotions. You can't bottle them up. They're always going to end up busting out. But what you have to do is learn to control them and learn to tap into them at the appropriate nature, or use those and channel those emotions in different ways. But when it comes to business, it should be black and white pretty much, but you've still got some opportunity to be flexible in what you're doing, but try to keep the emotions out of it, because all that's going to do is make it a sticky mess for everybody.
Well, I like the fact that you highlight the fact that when you go to your client that you're, that you bought a note on, that you're going to them and you're giving them the opportunity to step into the middle and have a conversation. And I know we're joking about the country song here, but folks, I get it. At the end of the day, this is serious. This is people's livelihoods. Yeah. They've got experience. Life happens, and bad things happen to good people, and all the stories that come along with it. And, one of the things that I know that the industry in of itself has gotten a bad rap is the landlord or the note holder that just comes in and says, get the hell out, right? This is my property now, screw you.
Yep.
And what you just demonstrated speaks volumes to the type of business that you're running, because you're meeting people in the middle. Like you said at the beginning, don't meet with them in an emotional argument. It's not emotional. It's numbers, right? Simple as that. It's numbers. And the conversations that you have to be about numbers. And if the person comes at you with emotions, it's just going to wreck the deal. And now you've got to be that guy, right? Now you got to be the guy that comes down hard, because it is about numbers, and you have to protect your own business interests at the same time. And so trusting your intuition on when to just shut the hell up and listen, right? You're going to get the answers, because had you not met with that guy in the middle, because you're the note holder, you could easily come out and go, that's too bad, so sad. But you went, no, tell me your story. What are you making? And let's work together on keeping you in your home. Mm-hmm. That is huge. And folks, I don't care if you get nothing else from this show in of itself, listen to that. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, especially if you're in the mortgage industry, okay? If you're in the mortgage industry, pay attention. If you're in something else, meet people in that space and watch what happens to your business. Shut down your emotion, trust your intuition, and meet people in the middle to make smart, educated decisions. I can only imagine, Scott, the conversations. I mean, those are hard conversations to be having with people, right? You're talking about their home. You're talking about their livelihood. I can only imagine how emotional it gets at times.
It does, especially when we're dealing with single parents. Like, I had a conversation with a lady about a month ago. She's a single mom, 4 kids. The previous bank that held the note was starting the foreclosure process. We get on the phone. She doesn't know who to make a payment to. She's trying to stay. She starts cussing up a storm. And one of my staff members is like, I can't deal with this. Like, all she does is she gets emotional, starts cussing. It's like, okay, I'll deal with the phone call. I'm calling her. Sure enough, she gets emotional. And I'm like, I just let her vent. And she's finally, are you there? I'm like, I'm still here. Are you finished venting? And she started, well, yeah. I said, okay, well, let's try to solve something here. Because what you're venting about, if you would be quiet for a little bit and just listen a little bit, you realize that I'm addressing those issues. I'm trying to help you here. Help me, help me. Sometimes I feel like Jerry Maguire in the shower. Help me, help you. You know what I mean? Help me, help you. But the good Lord gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I think if you want to take emotions out of it, use them in the ratios that God gave you. Listen more than you speak. Really listen. Don't wait to speak. Really listen to who you're talking to and what they're going through and the emotions. And they'll tell you what they need. Every person, every client out there will literally tell you what you need if you ask them the questions, and then just shut up and listen. And you'll come across as having a superpower. You'll have it come across like, man, they really knew what the hell I wanted. Yeah, because you told me what you wanted, and I actually listened.
And that's funny, is because the culture that we've been brought up in, especially when it comes to marketing, when it comes to business, it's this, right? It's just pounding your fist against the wall. And really at the end of the day, where people are wanting to connect and intersect with you is in that humanity of things. And while, yes, things can get emotional, as the business owner, the onus is on you to remain detached. Trust your intuition, because like you said, if you listen, the client is going to tell you everything that you need to know about the next steps that you have to take. And whether that be in real estate or any other industry, it doesn't matter. That is the key to success. Scott, this is absolutely amazing. I know you do live events. I know you do training. What do you got coming up that our listeners can tap into, knowing that this might air 3 or 4 months from now?
We've always got different things that are rock and rolling. We've got an amazing online education system. If people want to learn more, they can just go to weclosenotes.com. We have tons of videos out there, I think over 1,000 videos on YouTube and Vimeo. We've got our own little podcast, the Note Closure Show podcast, that we're pretty excited about. We just hit episode 300 online on iTunes just recently in our 20th month. Just check us out, weclosenotes.com. Everything is there. If you ever want to find out what's going on, you can always just email me too as well at scott@weclosenotes.com. Glad to help out. Mention this show, and I'll throw it. You know what? I'll send you a copy of my 73-page ebook for free. How's that sound?
Awesome. Get that ebook. Tap into to what Scott's doing. He's doing some great things in the world, helping some folks. I just knew that this was going to be a great conversation, Scott. I didn't anticipate the sound effects, but always welcome. Always welcome. Scott, golf clap. Awesome. Folks, thank you so much for joining us here. And as always, thank you for your loyalty. And go out there, incorporate your own superpowers, and go put some good out into the world.